So good morning, everyone. I've been thinking about balance in the practice. And it's kind of interesting. Of course, we try hard as human beings to maintain a certain balance in our life. And it's not easy, as you well know, because there are so many things that come up that we're affected by, and there's so many challenges to meet. But I think you can probably identify that there are periods of time when we feel more balanced and are able to meet those challenges more easily, more skillfully, and then other times. Even after practicing for years, we might go through periods where it just feels like we're out of balance, or it's extra challenging or difficult. Maybe some things are coming up from our old conditioning that are challenging or whatever it is. But one of the things that we can do when we're having a spate like that is to really look at the balance in our practice. So this is something that as a ministry student, we were asked to look at. And that system that the ministry school was primarily based on was Kriya Yoga. So it's a little bit different than the Buddha's way of describing the Dhamma, but it's still, I think, a good place for us to start in this reflection. So in that system, they thought about practices having 4 elements. And one of them was study. And yeah, I'll talk about some of the frames the Buddha put on this in a minute, but studying, really kind of developing the knowledge and understanding of basic principles and reading and, that kind of thing, looking at scripture. And there are 4 of these kind of facets that they looked at. And the second one was meditation, which of course includes both the samatha and the vipassana, the calm and the investigation. And the third one was sila, moral virtue. And the fourth one was service. And we thought about this like a table with 4 legs. And if you're feeling out of balance, might look at whether there are any one of these 4 areas that is being somewhat neglected. So maybe, a person is deep into the study, but their meditation practice isn't getting much attention. And that can be a cause for feeling out of balance, not having the groundedness that is so helpful in being able to deal with what we experience in life. And as I was reflecting on this the last couple of days, I was thinking about how, if one of these aspects, like the meditation practice, or maybe there needs to be some more attention on our development of our moral virtue. It's like the table with its 4 legs has one leg that's short, and it's just kind of wonkus. But I also, as I was reflecting, I could also see how sometimes one of them is overly emphasized and that one table leg is too long and the table is still out of balance. So we don't have a stable foundation. And I think this is the kind of thing that Ajahn Gunha is referring to when he says he thinks that sometimes people are too focused on formal practice, that we're not looking enough at the sila, or we're not looking enough at giving. So in the system I was just describing, service really is the chaga, really is the giving. And we've been looking this year quite a bit at these 5 qualities of faith, generosity, chaga, virtue, learning, and wisdom. And you can, I mean, now I've got kind of a 5-legged table. It's also works in my imagery. And it's useful to consider, I think, how balanced our practice is among these different areas, these different qualities. If we're putting a huge amount of effort into service or into giving, we might have an out of balance table. I think this is where we get burnt out, perhaps, that kind of thing. If we have a lot of faith and we really put a lot of emphasis on faith more than wisdom, say, or more than sila, that can also throw us out of balance. And the interesting thing about those 5 qualities, and as we develop them kind of in tandem, in balance, is of course that we've been seeing that each one of them is a basis for the development of samadhi, or can be, according to the Buddha, in the various places that we see him talk about how we can naturally see the unfolding of the qualities or the states that lead to that mental refreshment and deepening of samadhi. I thought I'd just share for a moment the diagram of that chain, that sequence. Some of you have seen this image before. It starts at the bottom with the chain of dependent origination, starting with ignorance or not knowing and going around this whole sequence, which I'm not going to explain at the moment. That's another whole several weeks of discussion. But here at the dukkha, if we step off into faith, then we also, the development of faith brings about this gladdening or well-being, this kind of joy called pamoja. And then that leads to this springing up of the brightness of the kind of joy, or sometimes it's called bliss. You can see these words get moved around according to the, like all these different Pali words could use these different English expressions. Sometimes I think it's easier to learn what the Pali means. So from pamoja to piti to passaddhi, tranquility, to sukha, and much more kind of stable, maybe somewhat more subtle, but it's deeply healing kind of sukha, and then samadhi. The lucid calm that Ajahn Chah would talk about. And in the sutta that we talk about sometimes called making a wish, and the Buddha said you don't have to wish. For example, if you start this chain with moral virtue, with sila. So I remember any of these 5 can be in this position here where we start down this path of the unfolding of the joy and the gladness, the joy, the tranquility, the happiness or sukha, and the samadhi. If we start with virtue, we don't have regret. And then we naturally feel this well-being or joy or pamoja. And then it naturally leads to piti and to passaddhi and sukha and samadhi. And then from the samadhi, we begin to see how things actually are. We naturally become disillusioned, nibbida, with the material world. And we begin to let go until there's complete freedom from suffering. So, how does balance come into it? Because we can think, oh, well, all I need is this faith, but that's not really how it is it? We also need the virtue. We need to put attention on our learning, so we understand the Dhamma. We understand, at least, and we're starting to get that framework in place. One of the reasons that I made sutta study such a central part of what KBV offers is because there are so many references to the Buddha and what the Buddha says that aren't really what the Buddha says in our culture. And so to understand, what did the Buddha really say and where was he coming from? And in truth, it's a challenging reality when we are very deeply steeped in convention and materialism. It can be hard to make this shift to recognizing the insubstantiality of this conventional world, and recognize that what the Buddha was really talking about is seeing through it and developing to the point where we understand that the real stability is in letting go of it all. So that's it. It's like, how do we come to that point? Well, it's really through developing all of these qualities kind of together, in tandem, in balance. So over the years, so this ministry school was early, 1998 to 2002. But over the years, it's been helpful from time to time to see, go through these periods where it's like we're drinking from a fire hose, we're really hit by so many things in life, and we can feel balanced in that and, work our way through things as best as we can, and we might feel pretty out of balance. And then noticing, hey, I can draw upon one of these qualities and really bring it in and stabilize my platform from which I'm working, from which I'm operating. And when I think about the Buddhas, the way the Buddha taught, so, I just described, those 4 qualities that they used in the Kriya Yoga environment to look at Dhamma, really. And then with these 5 qualities that we've been talking about, that we see in various places in the suttas, that the Buddha talked about. But the Buddha also had so many different perspectives or frames on Dhamma. If we want to think about the 37 wings of awakening, each of those lists that comprise a component of that is another frame on the Dhamma, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Okay, if we're feeling out of balance, we can look at which of the frames of the aspects or foundations of mindfulness might be something we want to put more attention on in order to become more balanced. The 4 right efforts, the 4 bases of spiritual power, the chanda, the virya, the chitta, the vimoksha. It's all again another way that we can look at how to be balanced. all of those components in that group are needed. And the 5 powers and 5 faculties, another frame that we can use, the 7 factors of enlightenment, the Noble Eightfold Path. So sometimes I talk about, when you think about the Noble Eightfold Path and you think, well, okay, do I have a weaker link here? One that I could put some energy into and get some benefit and get more stability, get more energy for the practice, get more of an uplift to the heart, have more tools available in order to work with whatever's coming up. So I've found this over the years to be helpful. And I hadn't thought before about how one of the legs of the table could be longer and also be throwing things out of balance, or how we can look at all of these different frames that the Buddha or perspectives through which the Buddha shines a light on the Dhamma, and make that an opportunity for practice, an opportunity to bring some more enthusiasm and energy into our practice. And like anything else that we talk about, we need to hold, whether it's an aspect of the path that we're putting our attention on, or it's a skill or a tool that we're using, a meditation style, or some teaching that we've heard, or this idea I'm presenting right now. We want to hold that into balance. So it's a matter of applying wisdom to our practice. What's really useful now? What's beneficial? Is it more beneficial to set all the work aside and have that time, that spaciousness for ourselves? Or is this a time when it's important to put some emphasis on generosity, reaching out, putting emphasis on developing our relationships, our Kalyanamitta relationships? Now, there's so many ways to approach the practice, and having insight into our own character also is important, to reflect on what is it that this particular complex of conditioning and process can benefit from. And that's a challenging one, because how really realistically do we see ourselves? Sometimes it's important to get the perspective of someone we trust on how this is going here and what it can use. Sometimes our conditioning can cause us to have some blind spots that are helpful to shine some light on. Maybe sometimes we have to pick up a practice we don't find appealing in order to really make progress. I know for myself, the times when someone's giving me feedback that I really don't want to hear, that's the time to really put things down and listen, because that resistance is a big red flag and it's really valuable to push ourselves in the right way in order to let go of what we're resisting. We can be pretty unwilling sometimes to pick up the thing that maybe we need the most. It takes a certain humility, I think, to and determination for the goal of freedom from suffering that can encourage us in the right direction. I've mentioned a lot of times that Ajahn Gunham, especially in the beginning when I was visiting, um, telling me I had to let go of comfort, which is actually very helpful when we were kind of um, karmically or by the work of the devas or whatever being moved out to the forest. So it's like I wasn't really so interested in going. Now I love it. And it's really been extremely valuable. But that we can find that kind of resistance in any aspect of our life or our practice. And taking an extra careful look if there's some part of the teaching of the Buddha that we are really wanting to block out and not examine. And sometimes that can come from some kind of pain from the past or some kind of difficult experience that seems to be related to this part of the Dhamma. And when that happens, I think we need to go carefully and take care of that old wounded part. It isn't about, well, I was going to say it isn't about force. And then my mind went to this book I've been listening to about Tanjia Chundo, Gold Wrapped in Rags. And when you listen to the biographies or read the biographies of the forest masters, you're like, it's a lot about force. It's like tremendous pushing. And maybe that's really exactly what's needed for some people, and for others, I think for myself, there are times when it's good to push hard, and other times when it's really good to be gentle and take care of the heart in a way that doesn't indulge it, but also doesn't bruise it. So I think the fundamental message here is paying careful attention to our bodies and minds, to the development of our practice in the Dhamma, noticing when there's an imbalance and seeing if we can level it out and develop in a way that's sustainable and as stable as we can, and that also supports the rest of everything in our life, in our experience. And I think we're very fortunate that the Buddha gave us so many different views into the Dhamma and so many different tools that we can make use of. So I'd like to see if you have any questions or comments. Yes, Marilyn.
I always think I should fill that space, you know?
Sorry about that.
Me?
Sorry about that. Yes, when I like hit the ball into your court and then there's
Um,
the pressure.
so I think that I've been trying to do this, you know, and I was going through a period where I was really, really hard, trying very hard,
Mhm.
quite a while, and maybe too hard without realizing it. And then, this thing happened with my leg, and it was like, okay, lighten up, and I
Mhm.
and I lightened up to great effect,
Mhm.
It was definitely a rebalancing.
Yep.
And but now it's like, not enough, not enough.
Uh-huh.
Too,
Mhm.
right now it's a little too gentle. So it's like this talk is perfect timing for me.
Mhm.
Exactly what I need. Thank you.
Yeah. So what do you think you want to pick up to put a little more effort in and a little more?
The funny thing is I've been doing that chanting every morning and I've been trying to learn a bit of Pali on the way, but I'm just being very gentle with it. I'm not sure if this is the best thing to focus on, but I'm going to do that for a while. But
Mhm.
also just just meditation. I don't know. I haven't actually focused on one, but generosity could probably use some work.
I know you got some great benefit from that. What was it during the birthday? Was it a birthday?
Yeah, the birthday thing was brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. One of the lightening up, I think, kind of in tandem with that, like blossoming of that generosity and maybe lightening up in some other ways.
But I was focusing on meditation itself, reading different ways, recommendations to work with meditation and focusing on that. And then anyway, yeah, there's all these different ways like you can look at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Marilyn. Suzanne.
Oh gosh. Thank you for these comments. Of course, I'm going to turn it into what I need, which is I could benefit from more generosity. I got that. And so my question is about when to speak up. I've talked to you before about our local lay sangha,
Mhm.
and it's people who give talks are just peers. Sorry, I'm just saying just. But I really went to a spin because Thursday night, the person gave a talk about secular Buddhism
Mhm.
and talked a lot about, basically said that faith shouldn't be used and that we should focus on meditation.
Mhm.
So that's an imbalance. And then there's like this aversion that comes up and concern and no,
Mhm.
I have to say something. So the question is, I did say something and there is some regret. I mean,
Mhm.
I wasn't mean. I started with kindness and appreciation for her and her asking for comments.
Mhm.
And out of our whole Sangha, I was the only person who said, I don't believe in secular Buddhism.
Mhm.
I even said, I feel that term is a misnomer.
Mhm.
And so my question is, was I don't think it was being generous. Would it have been generous to keep my mouth shut?
No, I mean, it, communication is so imperfect anyway. There's like no real guarantee at all that people are going to understand where we're coming from or what we're talking about. And it's a kind of a wonder we can communicate at all, I think sometimes. But I think the heartfelt wish to at least encourage people to think about it and not just kind of take on what they're hearing without reflection is helpful. And I don't think it's if we really feel like something's being presented that is gonna lead people the wrong way, I think it's good to flag that, identify it. And when I say the wrong way, well, how do we know what the right way or the wrong way is? And I think what you're getting at is when you look at the Buddha's teachings and we start to apply them, we start to develop that faith. It's not blind faith. We start to develop that faith in the Buddha, that trust. We could maybe call it confidence instead. And it's that confidence in the Buddha that I think is the basis for your wanting to point out that we do need to include all those parts. The Buddha said, the Buddha said that he didn't include anything that we didn't need for awakening. He said, when it comes to the teachings, nothing should be taken away, left out, and nothing should be added. It's as it is. It's what we need for awakening. And I think you're trying to point out that, there might be some good reasons why people want to reject the faith aspect, the conditioning in situations where it feels like faith is jammed down our throat, So I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's good to speak up. And then maybe, all of us, we learn, well, what way of expressing this is effective, and can I kind of learn how to develop a way of talking about it that actually is easier to hear, that kind of thing. But to not be too hard on yourself, because like I said, talking about these things, it's messy, and that's okay. I don't know. Does that address this?
Yes, that's very kind of you, and I wish you had been there to say that.
Well,
and I'm going to reflect on how I said it, but it does help me feel better, because yesterday was like a crash, like lots of self-judgment. It was very painful. And I did make the comment, the Buddha didn't focus just on meditation. He talked about sila, samadhi, and panya. And yep. I don't even know if they know what those words mean.
Right.
So this is very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's about balance. If we just focus on meditation, it's a one-fold path. But it's not. It's an eightfold path. Or it's 7 factors of enlightenment. It's not just samadhi, we need the other parts too. And yeah, this is your group, so you'll see them again, and you'll get a chance to maybe share more. And yeah, good. It takes courage. And don't be too hard on yourself. Yeah. Thank you, Suzanne. And James?
Hi, Ayya. Thank you for the talk. Not what I put my hand up for, but I kind of like the idea of the one-fold path. I mean, it'd be nice if it was that simple, wouldn't it? I mean, I've took ages to be able to remember all 8, so if there was just the one, it would be great. But and I kind of feel like once one's encountered the broad range of the Buddha's teachings, I wonder how faith couldn't arise, to be honest. But anyway, that's like another issue, really. But what I really put my hand up to ask, what might seem like a rather obvious question, is that how does one know that one is out of balance or ungrounded? I mean, maybe I'm asking that from a perspective of someone who is perpetually unbalanced and so doesn't really know what actually is. It's like someone asking what love feels like because they've never been in love. So maybe I'm just so perpetually unbalanced that I just don't know. But so what am I looking for to give me the sense that things are imbalanced or things may not be? You know what I mean?
Well, I know I've heard you over, maybe it's been years now. I don't know how long you've been coming, but I've heard you talk about times when things are going pretty well. The practice feels, like the life is going pretty well, the practice is going pretty well, even though these things happen at work or whatever, you're kind of like able to be with that in a good way, in a way that, it's not perfect ever, but it's, fairly workable. That's balance. Balance is never like just solid and steady. It's like riding a bicycle. There's always a little weave to the left or a little to the right, because that's what balance is about. We live in samsara, and there's all of this dark and bright mixed together, found in everything, the drawback and the positive. And it's just, it's a matter of just trying to keep moving and trying to stay upright, what I'm saying? And so, there's always going to be a bit of a wobble, but then there are times when it's really like sideways, kind of like, it's like, no, this is like, I'm overwhelmed, or I know that I'm not meeting this with the kind of strength or stability that I sometimes can experience. And I think that you can probably identify those differences. And actually, there's no harm anytime in looking at where is the balance of these elements of the practice, and how might I give a little boost to something that's been kind of falling to the side and missing for a while.
All right, that kind of makes sense.
Okay. It's a very imperfect science.
Indeed.
I like the way Ajahn Sumedho talks about the teachings of the Dhamma are directional signs, not absolutes. Even what we think is right and wrong, even, we can begin to see that it's not really absolute. Things change all the time. Thank you, James. Patty, you're muted, Yeah,
Of course.
yeah, of course.
I really, the Indriya are just, they're succinct and they're just great, And I, like a lot of people, I'm not keen on the word faith, but I get confidence. And so that's kind of where I hang my hat. And so they're simple. There are 5 of them, and they go 1, 2. Okay. And along with that, I've really recognized that in our 5 precepts, the right speech is probably the most problematic, because we do it all the time, and sometimes with skill and sometimes not. But over the years, I've just had there's been a wonderful progression of, I grew up with a mom who never expressed her views or opinions or thoughts or feelings or anything. And then when she'd get to a certain point where she absolutely couldn't stand it anymore, she would blow up and just whatever's in the way gets it, right?
Yeah.
So that was I didn't blow up, but I just always contained everything, the views and opinions and thoughts and feelings and so forth. And you know what I discovered? I discovered that you can speak gently, you can speak kindly and truthfully and honestly and maintain my own views and thoughts and sharing. And I don't have to convince, that whole thing about, well, I need to have them understand and make them. No, it's just the ability to offer myself, right? And invite someone else to participate. And it may be met well or not. It's just not about that. But it took all of the fear out of, oh, you can't say anything because you know what? You could really.
Yeah.
That's just gone. It's such a relief. It's so beautiful because I've said hard things to people, not any kind of admonition or anything, but I've just said things people don't want to hear, specifically family. And yet, it's like when I used to be in real estate. When you had to go talk to somebody about the fact that their house is not going to sell because they painted the inside Kermit the Frog green and they really need to paint it. And they go, well, no, we'll let somebody else paint it. And so it's, or something like that. How do you make the connection? But along the way, it's been such a relief because I don't have that fear anymore. And, the right speech, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? Is it beneficial? Well, necessary? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. I remember Ajahn Amaro one time he was mad at somebody and he didn't talk to them about it for a year because he couldn't talk to them about it for a year until he got himself together. So anyway, I just want to offer support to can't remember who it was that was, Suzanne, I guess, that was talking about the speech thing, because it can be done and it doesn't have to be shame or embarrassment or fear. It can be done kindly.
But I can also validate that sometimes with all the skill, with all the good intention, people still may be upset, angry.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, thank you, Patty.
Yeah.
And it still can be really difficult depending on the context. Yeah, thank you. Steve?
Well, I think the thing that I'm mainly going to take away from this is when you said to look for where there's resistance in terms of to find which leg of the table is out of balance, where I think something I don't want to work on. And I think one of the more difficult things for me is faith. And so but I kind of see the way that over time, learning and wisdom have strengthened faith, and so they kind of work together. So
Yeah.
I think but just keeping in mind, James' question about where do I look? It's for me the answer was finding what I'm resistant to looking at.
Yeah.
What I'm resistant to.
Yeah. And the biggest resistance sometimes that I find is our resistance to really turn towards the dukkha. To acknowledge that dukkha is there and then be willing to actually turn towards it and open up to it and feel it and do that dropping deep inside for it to really understand where it's rooted. It can be really difficult to do that. And it can be very rewarding when we do, and there's a loosening of that knot. And I think maybe something Patty was describing, what came up for me as Patty was talking was that when we are ready, maybe it takes a year or however long, when we have done that inner work, you know, it's can be freeing in quite a subtle, maybe indescribable way that that then changes our whole approach to what we might say or how we might address something, and then the resistance that we have to looking at something disappears. So there is that step, first noble truth. It's just not easy when it's something that's deeply rooted from a long time ago. And I think this is really what we're seeing with people who want to reject looking at moral virtue, want to reject looking at faith, want to reject other aspects, you know, maybe gravitating toward the meditation and wanting that because it does bring some relief, some peace, some calm. But we're not really going to be able to transcend the onslaught of dukkha with only meditation. It's essential, but it's not sufficient. And I think that's important to recognize. The whole path is needed. And turning towards the dukkha, that's where we really need to be willing to do that one. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Joyce?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. It's something that this conversation is bringing up a very sensitive topic for me. And I've been holding it since last May. And it's just so painful. And I don't know how to talk about it. But anyway, the thing that made it arise again was your comment about feedback she doesn't want to hear and put attention on. Resistance to it is a signal. I don't know, that was a very profound statement. And I don't know if I could pierce through it right now. Like it takes humility to reach the goal of freedom from suffering. And I have been a lot of emotional trauma in my life. And I never spoke. I stopped speaking forever, all through school. So I saw an opportunity with the Sangha because it felt gentle and it felt receptive. And I accidentally said the wrong thing. And oh my goodness, it was the tiniest little bit to putting my toe in the water of something. It was just a comment. I was experimenting with sharing because I love the Dhamma. I've been practicing the Dhamma for 40 years, but I don't speak. People don't seem to notice that I don't speak, but I don't because I'm afraid. So I offered something, and oh my goodness, this was the day before I was going on my one and only ever in my lifetime 1 month retreat. And I got blasted by this person. And I was so looking forward to this retreat. I was so happy to be going to Spirit Rock for a whole month in the spring with the green grass and everything. I was so happy. And boom, crashed to the ground, and I never recovered for the whole month. I got some good practice in, but I never got to the place of real enthusiasm that I had before this particular incident occurred. And I just don't know how to talk about it with the person. But this is really bringing it up. And so I'm not going to reveal what it is because it's just too tender right now. I don't know if you could help me. I mean, not now, but at another time. I'd be very grateful for help in sorting this out because I love the Dhamma. It's the most important thing I have discovered in my life. But this is putting a damper on it. It's making my fear even greater to speak. So I'm speaking now like a little kid, but it's very important to me. And I'd like to resolve it before I die. And I'm 82, so. But I still practice, and I still love the Dhamma, and I always will. And I know that there are people within the Dharma who even teach it, I know haven't quite reached the place of not having reactivity. So, and I fell into that right before my precious retreat, and I don't know how to resolve it. So I'm going to leave it at that. So I don't become a blubbering mass here. It's pretty close to doing that right now, but the Dhamma is precious to me and it doesn't affect the Dhamma. Thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, Joyce, I mean, I think you've brought up this incident before, and I think you know that I'm happy to talk to you privately if you want to. And just let me know when it's a good time for you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind at all if you would reach out because again, am I still unmuted? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really difficult for me. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I am really the silent one.
Mhm.
I am really afraid. I couldn't even speak at my dinner table because I didn't know what was going to happen with my dad.
Mhm.
I mean, I lived in fear a lot and I did not speak
Mhm.
in public.
Right.
And people don't notice that. You know, I could speak one-on-one to people, but not in a group. It's
Mhm.
just terrifying. Put my hand up, and I see I'm getting closer to the end, and then I put my hand down. So, and feel free to just delete this from the talk. I mean, I was just feeling a strong drive to finally say, I'm going to say it. I'm going to do it this time.
Right.
I'm just kind of blabbing on, but anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I want to share. I love the Dhamma. I want to tell people about my insights, but I can't because I get so scared.
Mhm.
So I'm
Right.
just introducing you to me right now. So leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Joyce.
Now I don't know how to mute. Let's see. I'll figure it out maybe.
We can make that happen. Yeah, there you go. So there was a question in the chat if I would, at least in a general way, respond to that. You know, when we're feeling hurt, first of all, we do have to take care of ourselves, but we also have to remember that that taking care of ourselves is to really look at what is it inside us that makes us vulnerable to that, whatever happened. I gave a talk recently, and someone was here talking with me about it, around taking 100% responsibility for our own experience. And it really is so important, because in this life, there are so many times when we feel offended, when we feel hurt by what other people say or do. And of course, we want ourselves to be developing our skill and care around how to speak and how to act with people. And we also can recognize when there's actually abusive behavior and get out of the line of fire of that. But when it comes to words, the Buddha said, there isn't anything someone can say to you that you really have to take in and be hurt by. We ourselves can process that in such a way that we're not harmed by it. And that's what it means to take responsibility for our own experience. It doesn't mean that people aren't rude. It doesn't mean that people don't say things that are sharp or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's our internal work that needs to be taken care of, that needs to be addressed so that we're solid. Ajahn Jayasaro said that no one can hurt you psychologically, mentally, without our own participation in it. So we look at that. What is that participation? Why do I take it in this way? Can I work through that wounded part that's open to or vulnerable to that kind of harm? I don't even think of it as harm. If I think you hurt me by saying that, I'm putting the power in the other person's hands. And it's not really where it belongs. I can say, I feel hurt. That's true. And I can heal that. So I hope that makes some sense.
Well, it's a little different when we're in a Dharma situation, and I feel a lot of trust in the Dhamma, and I take a tiny risk, and then I get what to me is really truly an over proportion critical response. I was putting my toe in the water. I want to participate so much in this group. And right now, we're talking about like decades of conditioning in this way. And
so Joyce, I appreciate what you're saying.
we can talk separately. I mean, I don't mind. We don't have to do it here.
Yeah, I don't think we can. I think you're right. There's a lot of that history that you've experienced that needs to be taken care of. So I think it's better for us to do it offline.
Yeah, I would like to do that. I would really like to do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're up here.
Okay.
I hope you come up soon because I would really like to do this. I finally have the courage.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Joyce. Jean, did you want to say something?
Somehow the raising hand is not in the option of my emoji. Anyway, I want to send something to Joyce and to this group. This is my second time. I learned so much from even the first lesson. I remember the word you said, don't, no one can hurt you mentally until you participate. So for this sentence, I give it to myself, and I talk to my coworker who constantly come to me. She had a issue with her wife, and she cries, but I try to talk to her out about all these Dhamma thing, but eventually she get better. She always said to me, Jay, every time I talk to you, I feel better. So I learned the technique from you, and I want to thank you. Yeah. And I hope, Joyce, you feel better.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.
Sure.
I can't figure out how to raise my hand, so hope you don't mind that I'm gonna unmute. Oh dear, now I forgot, and I get so nervous when I try to talk. I just want you to know, I mean, there is this conditioning. It's something I learned about partly in Buddhist practice. Is whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon will become the inclination of their mind. And that is what I'm afraid has happened. It is not so easy. If you have had this situation since childhood and being in a really scary household, to suddenly say, oh, wow, I don't have to think that way. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm drawn to the Dhamma practice. It's because it's gentle and it's caring. And it talks about other kinds of conditioning. And believe it or not, I actually do work on it, and I've healed a lot. So I just want you to know that this is not something that I'm just going around being an old grouch and complaining to people about all this. I actually do work on it, and I use this in my practice. And it's the most inspiring thing I've ever found in my life. But I lived in a dangerous household, and my father came from a dangerous household, and it's conditioning.
Right.
Very difficult when you're a child to figure that out.
Oh yeah, it's
and respond in fear and terror. So I just like to put that in there, because not everybody has grown up in the beautiful suburban area with access to the Dhamma and all this thing. I did not. Working class neighborhood, across the street from a railroad track, with a dad who had no education. So there are people like me in these groups as well.
Yeah, Joyce, and more people have these problems than you think.
Well, yeah, because I
It's
was one of
possible
them.
to
I
work
was one
with
of them too.
Yeah.
I'm just coming out and showing my colors instead of just sitting there in silence and fear and being a good girl. I want to heal before I die.
Yeah. Have you, well, we'll talk more about it in private. I think that would be the best way to handle it, Joyce.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at the moment or comments? If not, let's take some time to meditate. And just settling into a comfortable position and taking stock of the state of the mind. Because while it's true that we can take 100% responsibility for our experience, and that is really the way through the challenges that come our way, certainly verbally, psychologically, mentally. Physical threats we want to get away from. But those emotional ones, they could show up anytime. And to recognize that we can be present. First step is to be present with the way we feel, with the state of the mind, acknowledging it. Sometimes we can even think of as welcoming it. It's like this, as Ajahn Sumedho said, it's like this. And then turning even more towards it with kindness, with compassion. And whatever we're feeling, notice where that feeling arises in the body. Is it in the chest, the stomach, the throat? Where do we feel it? And it's so important to set aside the story of whatever it is that has happened. Because if we stay in the story of it, there's no relief. Then we are pondering something that we become. We're just caught up in the same story. But that's not where the peace and the relief and the wisdom arises. It's in working with the feeling directly in the body. So when the Buddha said we can learn everything we need to know from this fathom-long body, he certainly, I think, was referring to the impermanent nature of it, the constant changing, the unreliability, the instability of the body, the non-beautiful aspects of the body. I think he was also talking about how our felt experience is known through the body. So we feel it and notice its qualities, its characteristics. If we feel it in the chest, for example, or wherever it arises, how big is it? If it had a color, what would the color be? What's the texture of this feeling? Is it spiky? Is it spongy? And as we observe it, we notice that it changes. Sometimes it becomes softer, more diffuse. Sometimes we can investigate with some questions, like where have I felt this feeling before? What's the first time I can remember feeling this feeling? The answers are not coming from the thinking mind, but from our intuition. having the patience to stay present with whatever the felt sense is, gives us the opportunity to deeply understand it. You might feel some sense of loving kindness or compassion coming up around this feeling. Not to obscure it or to dilute it, but to appreciate it. This feeling, whatever painful feeling we have, is an indication that there's something more for us to learn, to understand, to release. The releasing of the feelings isn't something we can make happen. The understanding isn't something we can think our way through to. But when we've given it the time, the space, the attention, without continuing to repeat the story, then we're creating the causes and the conditions for that insight to arise, for that healing to occur. We may have to do this process over and over again and go deeper into it than we can right in this moment, collectively. Because this is a personal and individual expedition. Investigation. when we're able to stay present with this felt sense, this experience all the way through to relief, it doesn't really feel so much, in my experience, like healing. It feels more like a letting go, a dropping away. Coming through that experience to the other side of it makes whatever someone said irrelevant. No longer holding the power, the intensity, or the meaning that it had before. Even if we've experienced the same thing over and over again many times, we can still use the process of mindfulness and investigation, feeling, turning towards the dukkha, really seeing the root of it and letting go as a way to be finished with it. Never vulnerable to it again. And this is the power of the Dhamma, the power of the Buddha's teaching. Eventually, we realize, we experience the reality that there's only one thing to fear. It's not other people. It's not what they say. It's not even what they might do to the body. The only thing to fear is our own wrongdoing. That which brings the karmic results that we ourselves must endure or address. And because that's the only real source, real thing to fear, we have the power to develop our sila, to develop our skill. Things will still go wrong. People will still misunderstand. But that's just the nature of this reality. We'll still make mistakes. But all the good that we do, the development of the heart, the generosity, the wisdom that we develop, it greatly surpasses whatever mistakes we make. And we use all of it for learning. It's all grist for the mill. With the primary focus on turning towards and addressing whatever dukkha arises. With patience and kindness. There is a way out, a way through this suffering. There is an end to it.